Hello, welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year. My name is Cheryl Lindsay and I'm so delighted that you are joining me today and watching this video as we think about ushering in a new year. It is 2020. I cannot believe how quickly this year has come, and just the idea of it being 2020 is amazing to me. I still remember growing up as a kid thinking that 2000 seems so far off, and now it is 20 years after that. Time really does move quickly. But as we think about a new year, we think about bringing in a new year, what that means for us, the practices that we have, the natural tendency to reflect during any period of transition, and going from one year to another is a natural period of transition. Even though we can reflect every day, we can look at our goals every day, we can start anew every single day, and that's a blessing. But a new year just naturally causes us to think and reflect on these aspects of our lives, these things. I don't know if you set resolutions. I'd be curious. Let me know in the comments below if you set resolutions and if you want to share what your resolutions may be for 2020. That'd be great. If you are, if you've watched some of my other videos, you know I do not do that. I set a word for the year. My word for 2020 is discover. I'm really excited actually about this word of discover for the year. This will be my fourth word of the year. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I did a whole video about my word for the year and putting it in my prayer journal. So I'm not going to go on too big a tangent about that. But it's a way to really focus your attention on an aspect of your life that you want to amplify throughout the year, and using just one little word, one word, to do that. And it's really about internal transformation or reflection, more so than external goals. Now, they can certainly be tied to external goals, can be tied to things that you want to achieve. And I think that's helpful. But for me, the words have been about some aspect of myself as a person that I want to develop or pay attention to. And in this particular year, discover for me is about embracing the new, about searching for new experiences, new possibilities, new knowledge, all those things. It's also about being open to finding things I'm not searching for. So what possibilities may come. It's also about being attentive to what's already there, like noticing, seeing what's already in front of me, not just going through life so busy, so focused on that this is in front of me, this is wonderful, and I don't even see it because I'm so tunnel vision on this. So that's what a lot of what Discover has for me, and I'm really going to focus my attention. I have a whole journal that I'm going to be devoting to that Discover, and it's a small one. It's my smallest of my notebooks. I don't have it with me. I'll probably show that periodically to you throughout the year, but that's what I'm going to focus on. So, for instance, one of the things that I've been working on is more home cooked meals. But I can often fall into a rut of cooking the same things over and over again. You know, things I don't need a recipe for. I'm not really a huge recipe. I use recipes sort of as as a suggestion. Start like, oh, well, let's try this, and this will be, you know. So I always try to make things because I do enjoy new things, and so if I cook it once, I don't want it to be exactly the same each time, unless I'm baking, because baking is, you know, proportions and science and all those kind of things. So baking, I tend to, but even with that, I have a little leeway. Well, let me just put a dash of cinnamon to something, or let me combine this and this, even though the recipes are different, I'm baked, but in the presentation. So, but anyway, but one of the things I'm planning to focus on in terms of discovering new foods. I love a lot of different cuisines, but that doesn't mean that there are things I haven't tried. And so, going to my favorite restaurants, the last few years, I used to be a person that every time I would go to a restaurant, I would try a new thing. But over the last few years, I've noticed that I go to my favorite restaurants and I get the same thing. And I love it. And I know I'm going to love it. But I still want to be that person who's open to finding something else to love. So that's where how Discover comes in terms of this new year. And so I'm encouraging us to consider, instead of that expression, new year, new you, that you don't need to be a new person. You don't need to be a totally new person. That who you are, I mean, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are created and crafted, shaped and molded in the image of God by the Most High God. You are uniquely planned and purposed from before the foundations of the earth. The text says, the Lord knew you. God knew you, knew who you were going to be and how you were going to fit into the overall plan and what your purpose would be. And the things that we love to do, the things that give us joy and we want to do, that's our calling. Pastors aren't the only ones who are called. Preachers aren't the only ones who are called. We're all called to do those things that God has intended us to do. God's made us to love this. So if you love woodworking, that shouldn't be something you do on occasion. That should be central to your life, because if it gives you joy, then that's what you're called to do. What you're called to do. Discover who you are called to be if you haven't already. Discover something new about yourself. If there are aspects of your life that you're not happy with, discover what it is that's keeping you from either stopping something you want to stop or taking on something that you want to take on. Discover what your dreams are and how you, in your life that you have, can achieve them. Not a daydream, but how you can do those things that do drive you, that give you joy and passion. So my hope is that we'll have less emphasis on what we want to do, which is, I think, what resolutions tell us. Oh, I resolved to lose 50 pounds. I resolve to get up at 6 a.m. every day and work on my novel. Whatever the resolution may be. Instead of thinking about that, my goal is to be healthy, or I want to write. I have a book to share. I have a book in me to share, and I want to get it out. Focus not so it's not that I'm a writer. It goes from I want to get up at 6 a.m. because somebody wrote that you need to get up at 6 o'clock. There are no shortage of articles and self-help, motivational books or writings that will tell you that the secret to doing whatever it is that you want done in your life is to get up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. That doesn't work for everyone. As someone who is not a morning person, who has tried that, the only time in my life that getting up early worked was for a particular time when I was in seminary. My last year of seminary, I was taking a particularly large class load in order to finish, because I started part-time and then went to full-time, and I wanted to finish in 3 years, so I had to make up for the part-time that I started. So that was taking on additional classes. So instead of taking my normal 4, by the way, I was working full-time and doing some side consulting while I was in seminary and going to school full-time. I had to get up because I needed more hours in the day. I got very little sleep during that time because I was still going to bed early. I would get up early to read. I would get up at about 6:30 to do an hour and a half of reading, because I had an additional class for 2 terms, and I needed the additional time to read. And I would go to bed even later to do the writing, because I tend to write, I don't, for whatever it is, the quiet of the night, after the busyness of the day and the quieting down. In the morning for me, I'm still trying to wake up. So to go right into, I'm like, I haven't even woken up, and to start writing, I need, but I could get up, I could wake up and start reading. But to start writing, no. So I would write at night. And so that's the only time it worked for me. And it honestly only worked for that brief period of time, because afterwards I stopped doing that. And I could not have sustained that for a long period of time. You have to know who you are. And that's part of the idea of New Year, discover you. Know who you are. Know who you are, uniquely who you are, and walk in that. Don't worry about fitting into the molds, societal norms, other people's expectations, any of those things. But focus on getting to know who you are and discovering who you are, and maximizing who you are in that way. So a couple suggestions of what you can do. Do a vision board, not of, the places you want to, do a vision board of all the things that we normally do vision boards. How is fine. And I do one virtually every year. Sometimes I do multiple because I'll get invited to vision board parties and I'll go. But do a vision board of who you want to be. So it doesn't need to be, tons of different things. It could be just words, characteristics of who you are as a person. I'm loyal, I'm faithful, my word is my bond. I complete things on time. I believe in myself. I'm actively engaged in my community. Whatever that vision is of who you are as a person, your character, who you strive to be in terms of that. I'm generous. I do community service, whatever it is. Do a vision board of that. Okay, I had a little hiccup there. Note to self when recording with my phone. Put it on airplane mode. I forgot to do that. And got a call, came in and stopped recording. But do a vision board of that person that you want to, who you aspire to be. So it should be you. You may have pictures of yourself doing things that you enjoy doing. You may have symbols, icons, or pictures representing, for instance, if you want to go back to school, maybe you put a cap and gown on there, or you put some pictures of textbooks. You get the idea. Do a vision board though, but not of just all the things you want to accomplish. Not a bucket list so much as a vision of yourself that's devoted to you. Then after you've done that, then do sort of some people call them brain dumps. I call them mind maps, where you're writing down, this is just pen and paper, writing down and connecting the dots between what do you have to do that? Like, what are the things that have to happen for you to attain that? So if going back to school, it might be researching schools. It might be determining what your major will be, doing research on scholarship opportunities or financial aid, what the process is. It might be doing visits to colleges and universities, or if it's trade school, whatever the case may be. It could include, and you see how my mind is going, just like what, just it doesn't have to be linear, but just writing down on a piece of paper all the things. You could organize it later, but this is like brainstorming, where you're just thinking of all the things that could possibly be involved in this, and you're going to do that for those things around your vision. And I would probably recommend that you not do it for the entire like if you have multiple things, multiple visions of yourself that you want to pursue, maybe prioritize which one is most important or which one is most attainable. It's up to you. Or maybe those are the two, you know, this is the biggest one. Let me brain dump this one. This is, I think, the easiest obtained. Let me brain dump that one. And then compare and decide which I'm going to attack. Am I going to go after the low-hanging fruit, or am I going after the big prize? And that's a decision that you would make, but take that time to really go through what needs to happen for me to manifest this in my life. And that's a really concrete way of visioning, because in that process, you're visioning not just the end result, you're visioning what you have to do to make that come into being. So then I would, from that, organize that information and figure out, are there routines or practices or a timeline that you need to establish in order to make that happen? It's going to depend on what that vision is. So for some things which are more, I want to change, let's keep going with the going back to school. That might be more of a timeline where, okay, these are all the things that need to happen, and you need to create a timeline with specific deadlines and dates tied to the actions that you have to take, that you can check off and you can measure your progress. Other things that you might want to spend more time with your family. Well, that might not be a timeline thing, but it might be, well, I need to establish some routines. Maybe I need to call a different family member every Sunday evening, or, you know, whatever that might be, fill in the blank. That might be more routines and practice, and how am I going to incorporate that in my life in such a way that it'll stick and that I will maintain that. So that could be ultimately what people would normally think of as resolution, but that comes along much further in the process. You determine what's your overall, the big outlook, your end result is going to be. From that, you figured out what do you need to do or to be to make that happen. And from that, you've come into the concrete steps to get you there. So that's just a general way. And then the last thing, be remiss, have some way to account for it, some measure of accountability. Whether that's accountability with another person, external or internal, where maybe if you're not like me and you are a planner and you have a physical planner or even a digital one that you use on a regular basis, you can put in something to track it in there. If you are more extroverted and you are looking for more external accountability is more helpful for you, then maybe you have an accountability partner that you work on and you say, this is an area I need you to help me with. And then you tell them specifically what works for you in terms of being held accountable. That could be, for some people, it could be as simple, hey, did you call your mother, call your son, once a week? You could get a text from someone. Hey, did you, have you applied to these schools that you said you were interested in? Have you made appointments to visit the campuses? You have to that's something you're going to negotiate based on what it is and who you are and how it works for you. I don't believe in the cookie cutter approach, because we are all different and different things work for us. It makes us more interesting. It's a wonderful thing to have that we aren't all the same. And I think we need to embrace our difference, our uniqueness in that way. And so my prayer is that as we come to this new year, and as we take this natural opportunity to reflect on who we are and the status of our lives and our overall contentment and satisfaction with that state of our lives, that we naturally, human beings, most of us tend to want more, to grow, to progress. And the way that we do that I think is by being intentional. And my suggestions or a way that I found that works for me in terms of being intentional about putting into action a plan intentionally, strategically, in order for me to realize not just the things that I want to accomplish, but who I want to be looking at in the mirror and the person that I am in the process, which is for me much more valuable than whatever, because we can accomplish many things and still, after accomplishing it, be dissatisfied if we're not walking in our purpose and we're not pursuing those things that bring us joy and that enliven us, our lives. That whole enliven, to bring life forth within and from within us out into the world. And that's my prayer with all of this, is that not only are we maximizing who we are, but that we then can gift that, bring it forth as an offering and a gift to the world. And if we all, in our own way, move forward and move higher and become better, then we all together do the same. My prayer for you is that in all things that you will love God, love your neighbor, love yourself, and that your light will shine and God's light will shine in you and through you out into the world that needs it so. The world needs you. It doesn't need you to become someone new. It needs you to discover the unique gift of you and then give it to the world. Until I see you the next time, my prayer is that you will be blessed beyond measure